I just want to let everyone know we're in a slight delay. We are waiting for Teresa with her laptop in order to start the online portion, the live online. So just enjoy your neighbors and visit for a few more minutes.
You think we never did this before. This is our 8th year of ElderSpeak.
Hello and welcome to ElderSpeak. Big breath. That was kind of a panicky start. ElderSpeak is a program of the Ripple Foundation. The Ripple Foundation is a local nonprofit that supports, oh, I'm so rattled. I'm going to use my cheat sheet. Supports personal and interpersonal relationships. This is done through workshops and programs like this. The Ripple Foundation's vision is a world of compassionate connections. We are so glad that you're all here. Those of you here in the beautiful snowy Owl Theater, and those of you who are joining us online. We're sorry for the delay. We had just a little mishap, but we're all good to go now. So thank you. Thank you again for joining us. If you would like to support this program or other programs like this, we have placed donation jars in the lobby, and there's also a donate button on the Ripple Foundation website. We dearly, dearly appreciate any support. Thank you again for coming, and here's Teresa.
I think Deb was so rattled she forgot to introduce herself. That was Deb Popst. Thank you to Icicle Creek Center for the Arts for providing us this beautiful theater, Snowy Owl Theater. We also thank Eric Frank and Craig Root for their technical assistance. We'd like to thank all our volunteers who helped to make this happen. And we also thank our sponsors, the Kashmir Valley Bank, Dan's Food Market, Eagle Creek Winery, and the Wenatchee Valley Technical Center. If anyone is thinking about starting their own ElderSpeak program, we have written a book. Deb and I had time last year with the pandemic to write a book on ElderSpeak with a grant from the Icicle Fund. We were able to write the book and also to have Eric Link create a film for it. It's available for sale out in the lobby as a fundraiser, and it's also available in the store of A Book for All Seasons or online. So please be sure to get your copy if you haven't already. And now I'd like to introduce our third cohort, Robin Bowl.
Thank you, Teresa. ElderSpeak. It's a journey taken by 4 elders each year to find the wisdom of their life experiences. This year, you're going to get to listen to Jan Cook Mack, Randy Lewis, Bev Baugh, and Ed Baugh. And they will share their stories and what they have learned from them. Their stories may resonate with you. They may trigger memories of your own. And you may find the value of your own unique life experiences, as these 4 have done. Thank you.
Okay, we are going to be showing the Wenatchee Valley Tech Center's student film. They did interviews of each of our elders through the winter and created a beautiful film for us. So our thank you to Eric Link, the teacher, and to the student body. Enjoy.
as a parent, those are the things that you really want for your children. They don't have to be successful, make a lot of money, but I always wanted my children to be kind and compassionate. And you're not agreeing with everyone, and there's times in a classroom where you have to have boundaries, but you have to gain the respect of the students that are there. And so I kind of took those skills actually in dealing with adults. And, I think when I was in a classroom, I always said to the classes that I had, you will probably rarely ever see me angry, but if you do, it's because you've been disrespectful of other students in the classroom, or you have made fun of someone. You don't have to like everybody in the classroom, but you need to respect each person in the classroom because everybody is a special person. I guess I always had a soft spot in my heart for kids who were struggling, whether it was behaviorally or academically or physically. I'll never forget one situation. It was my first day as an elementary principal when school opened. And I was out greeting all the kids, and, it's exciting and everything. And I get this call that I needed quickly in the office because there was a father that was very angry and upset. And I could hear him as I'm walking down the hallway, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I don't think I want to go in there. And I walk in the office, and he is probably 6'4", weighs probably 250, and I could hear him swearing. He was angry, and it was like, what am I going to do? Because that's a difficult situation to be in. So I just decided, I walked up to him and I put my hand out and I said, hello, I'm Mrs. Baugh, and I'm the principal here. And I think it startled him. I think he probably expected somebody that he was going to be able to be confrontational with. And I don't know if that works all the time, but it really actually worked for me a lot of the times. And that's when I realized I have to be able to be independent. And that's why I think I pushed so hard for my education, is that I just knew that if something happened, I needed to be able to take care of myself and my children. Having a goal is really important. And and sometimes I thought I couldn't look down the road too far, because if I looked too far ahead, it was overwhelming. So I just had to focus. This is one quarter. And then there was the next quarter, and till it was done.
Small bites.
Yes. But I think if that's something you really want to do, even if it takes longer, you can do it if you just have that determination. And we both work together as far as raising our children. And so I think that's really critical. When I was going back to school, he helped take care of the children and, made those sacrifices, worked extra jobs so I could get through. So that's really important, because sometimes that doesn't happen. And I think that's probably what's kept us together for 56 years. It isn't that we haven't ever had an argument by any means, but we've been able to support each other in those things that we wanted to do and trust each other. But I think when you're focused, you just do it. And I guess there's probably some stubbornness there. There's just determination. I've got to do this. This is expensive. We're making a big sacrifice, and I need to do the best job I can possibly do. And it worked.
Well, and just reflecting back, there's nothing that I've shared, I think, that has indicated that woe is me and life is bad. It all works out because I like to think that I have choices and I choose to make it good. Life is good, and there's far more important things out there than the material things. And the people you meet and associate with, that's really important to me. And I feel so fortunate to have my friends that we have, my neighbor that we have, the other neighbor that helps out, plows his driveway and takes him to the doctor, and, you know, an ice cream bar to your snow removal. That's pretty easy duty for me. So, but you know, we do have choices, and maybe it's through athletics that some of that comes out, especially in cross country that I really enjoyed, track and field. When we hiked the Kill Chute Trail up Alaska and into the Yukon Territory, our second night out, we had a meeting with the park people, and they says, we have heavy rains and high winds coming. You should make a choice to either stay here or turn around and go back. And if you feel that you're physically able and ready to face the challenge of the weather, then you can continue. We will be at the first creek crossing to make sure you get across that. But you need to have the following gear if you're going to attempt that. Well, knowing the Type A people that we were together with, we went on. We had an inch of rain an hour. We had winds between 70 and 80 miles an hour. If we would have gone back, the boardwalk across the swamp area would have been washed out. But we could do it, and we could do it together. And that's what happened. It's the people around you that make you who you are. When I was younger, I'll say third or fourth grade, there was a classmate that really struggled emotionally, struggled academically. And once in a while during recess, there would be some unpleasant things happen to him. And I decided that I needed to be his protector and take care of him and make sure those things didn't happen to him. And so helping people, I don't know if that's what happened, but I guess I've always looked at helping those that needed help. And so that just carried on to little things, whether it's ice cream bars for a 100-year-old man or shoveling snow, or it doesn't matter. Well, all things are good. Not all problems can be solved, but you can try. I was ingrained that you needed to get a degree. Now, that's 180 degrees of what I would tell a young person today. You need to make yourself different and marketable and be yourself.
When I came to Seattle, I went to the Seattle Art Museum, and you go into the room where all the famous Seattle artists' paintings are, and it looks like it's raining. Most all the paintings are gray, value, and dark. Then you walk through the hallway into where the New York painters' paintings are hanging, like Ken Nolan and Helen Frankenthaler, suddenly Stella. Suddenly the walls are lit up like there's rainbows everywhere. It was very different. I thought, well, I grew up with the the sunny artists, you know, and in Seattle, most of the artists were in the rain. I mean, that's basically how I thought of it. And the harder you work at your work, the energy that you've put into the work is held in it and can be felt by other people. I don't know, when you're kids, you're just starting out, so you're trying to find your voice. But I think the more that you work, the more it becomes clear what your voice is. Where if you just have a canvas with one line on it, it's not much voice. But the more, say you want to draw something, and it's like a portrait that's, you know, bigger than life size, it draws people in. They want to see what you're putting down. There is something to having that many paintings around you all the time, because they're always giving off energy, and it's mostly positive energy. And some of the paintings, like if every time you look at it you feel some delight or happiness, usually I say, oh, that's a good painting. But if I haven't painted in a week, I can have a lot of trouble starting again. So I tell my students that look at your old painting, find the easiest thing that you could do first. If it's just the white, just start painting the white there. So by doing that, you're telling yourself, oh, well, you can't go wrong with white, right? It is hard to go into a painting that you stopped working on and feel like you can accomplish anything. Make it easy as easy as possible. Have a teacher. I loved the time I got to ski there, but then I had a brain aneurysm and now I don't have any balance, so I can't ski. But I still like to paint the trees. Like, I'm not aware of it every day that I almost died, but I am thinking a lot about how wonderful it is to be able to still paint.
I was born on the Colville Indian Reservation, a place called Owl Lake Flats. It was 50 below zero the day I was born. And life hasn't gotten much sweeter. It's been a roller coaster ride. Shortly after I was born, I was brought down to Nispelum, which is the center of the Colville Indian Reservation and the Indian Agency, and I was enrolled as a member of the Colville Confederated Tribes from the Wenatchee, Methow, Entiat, Okanagan bands. No, I got the name Kayachan. I said, Icha and Kayachan, Icha Eche Kayachan. Here is me, Kayachan. Kayachan means shot in the arm, named after an old warrior who was shot, received a wound in the arm, wounded arm, shot in the arm. He was a powerful medicine man. He was a good warrior. So that's who I was named after. And it was a special ceremony because they were having a ceremony at our house, and I walked right into the middle of the goings-on and the songs and the prayers that were going on. And I started talking. In Indian, and I was channeling this man named Kayachan, because the words that were coming out of my mouth were not my words. They were way too advanced for me, for a 4-year-old kid or 5-year-old kid. Everybody remembered that moment. They sat me up on a chair, on a stool. They stood me up on a stool, and they blessed me off. And everybody there who heard it, everybody who was present knew whose voice that was, and it wasn't mine. And they all looked at each other and they go, Kayachan, Kayachan. My mom once told me something. She said, you know, and I passed it on to you, expressed it to you before. And all of you should hear what I say when wake up, hear what I have to say. You know what a jigsaw puzzle is. You put together puzzles before. Now imagine yourself, your family, as one of those pieces in that jigsaw puzzle. The jigsaw puzzle itself is a greater picture of the state of Washington, let's say. Your family's up here. And inside that piece, that jigsaw puzzle piece, there's 50 other little pieces, and you're one of them. Without you, though, that's an incomplete picture. Without your piece of that puzzle, it's incomplete. No one can really see or tell what that picture is, or have a complete idea of the value and the strength of that picture without your piece. So what you're doing here, I guess you could say it's a microcosm of what you're going to be doing in the future. You've got to start recording. People have got to take interest in their own family, in your own personal history, in your family's history, where you come from, what you do, and how that plays as part of that piece in that puzzle. One day you're going to be called upon to tell your story. Start doing it now. Start recording and keeping a journal now. If I was to leave one message with young people today, it's keep a journal. To keep a history, a personal history, a daily log, a weekly log of what you do. People you meet. Always value life. Always value what other people have to go through in life to get where they're at. Life is not easy. Life is not a given for everyone. So never take it for granted. Put your phone down every now and then. Put your media aside, your technology, and think about other people and how you can be a part of this world. As my dad would say, how to become a better citizen of this world. How to become a good citizen of this world. So be thankful, be mindful. Always be mindful of what you do. And life is a set of dominoes. We're all interconnected, one way or another.
You've helped so much to be my handler.
Got to turn this off. Come on. There we go.
Crazy driver. Hit the plane.
I'm going to lock your.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Okay, that's the last you heard that. Wake up.
This is if you need it.
Okay, just down there.
Okay. We're going to start with you, Jan.
Oh. Okay.
I will introduce you, and then I will ask you a question.
Oh.
Jan, this is Jan Cook Mack. And Jan is an exquisite artist. You see examples of her art all around us here. It's very beautiful. Jan shows us the beauty of where we live. Her gift is reminding us to stop our busyness and look deeply at this beauty. Jan, your wisdom statement is each person has their own perspective, and it will appear differently to each person. Each person conveys their own feeling. What feeling do you feel when you paint? And do those feelings go into the canvas?
I think your feelings are in the paint itself when you put it down. I remember a time when Rodwin asked me, I first came with Wenatchee. Rod Whedon is a very popular artist, lives in Midtown. He said, do you ever paint on site? Because a lot of my photos are from, a lot of my paintings are taken from photos. I said, sure, yeah, I drive around the countryside, I see a view, and I park. And I set my easel and do a painting of it. He said, well, that painting's just called roadkill. I thought it was so funny. Okay. He said, I'll take you on, to the mountains. We'll paint Mount Stewart. Then you'll see real mountains and do real paintings, not roadkill. I said, okay. He said, meet me at the trailhead at 5:30 in the morning. 5:30, trailhead at the Icicle River? Yes, you have to get there at 5:30, so by the time we walked up to Stewart Lake, the sun's coming up. So we did. We met at 5:30, and it was completely dark. We had flashlights, but when we got to the lake, the sun was just coming up over the mountain. It was beautiful, of course. And so I did painting. It took me 7 hours or 5 hours, I don't know. The whole time I was there, I did one painting that was like this. And he said, well, it's 3:30, we have to go. We don't want to be stuck in the dark. So we packed up. I asked him, you did some painting, right? And he showed me he'd done 11 paintings. Yeah, I was very impressed. But just the idea of painting in the woods, in the forest, there's a whole different experience coming into you that gets released on the painting. This is a painting I did. I was at Ancient Lakes, and I had not met Gretchen Dybert yet. She ended up buying that painting because I met her there. And I said, well, while you were running, because they were running the trail through that, I did this painting. And so she wanted to have it so the experience would be that for her to experience in the painting. What was the question?
I think you answered it.
Oh, okay. Good. That's good.
So can you talk a little bit about color and how you use color, what it means to you?
Okay, yeah. I think the color may paint it a little more intense than you see in photographs. But it's hard to say, I guess. I can't really answer that. I'm not sure how I can put it out on.
I remember in one of our group meetings
Okay.
when you were talking about two things. One is how you know when a painting is finished. And the
right.
other was, I remember that you were talking about how just a slight change in color could be so powerful
Yeah.
on the canvas.
Well, I know when a painting is finished when I keep looking at it and there's nothing left that annoys me. So that's easy to see, right? Because it doesn't irritate you. So and the painting is finished when it suddenly fills you with a lot of whatever that is. I did one painting at Kolchak that I went with some friends, and he carried it on his back because it's like this large. It was large. But when we got there, it was raining and snowing and sleeting. And I said, well, I'll just do what I can do here and we can go soon. So I think it took about 2 hours, but it had the snow in it and it conveyed the snow, and it was very simple. It looked like the landscape, but it had less in it. But I think when I have that painting to look at, it has more in it than the ones that, took a lot of time, because it feels like the snow's in the painting. It's unusual.
Negative space. Negative space
Yeah.
works.
Yes.
Is there anything you would like to share about the importance of art?
Well, I think it's very important to paint. I don't know if I can share more, except show my paintings.
Thank you, Jan. Our next person that we're interviewing and putting on the hot seat is Ed Baugh. Ed had a long career as a teacher and as a coach. But Ed, I really don't think that it was just the teaching and the coaching. What I've come to understand from all our discussions is it was the students, and that you
Certainly, yeah.
truly
It's
cared
about
for them.
The kids.
Yeah. You are a friend to everyone, truly. And at some point in your life, Ed chose to care for all people. And it's reflected in his wisdom statement. His wisdom statement says, as we travel through life, we are given a variety of opportunities to not only enrich ourselves, but others as well. Kindness and acceptance can lead to better understanding. A simple smile and eye contact can go a long way. And he adds, life is good. So, Ed, where did this come from? Why is this so important?
Well, it makes me feel better. I enjoy the reward of having others find success, getting help when needed, and just being acknowledged. It's very rewarding to at times put a smile on someone's face or greet them and see them as individuals and as real people, not just a figure walking down the street or a homeless person that things aren't going well for them. And if you can share a banana with them or a smile, it doesn't cost anything. It's just that extra step that you can take and see that they are still part of society.
So at one time you talked about seeing the inner person. What do you mean by that?
Well, life is good, and so are people. And just because a person's first image may not be that you would think of them, with a little bit of exchange and a little bit of kindness, you can unlock someone's door to let them a little closer in and see that they are a very valuable, worthwhile person in our society. And at that time, it will brighten their day as well. When you ask someone, well, how's your day going? And you get a response, well, it's kind of rough. Well, that's a choice. What can you do to make it better? Is what I'm implying. So life is good, and it's always half full. When it's half empty, then a smile can make that change.
But Ed, that requires you to be somewhat vulnerable.
Yes, I'm human, and I am vulnerable, and I can have my feelings hurt. But without risking, you can't make change. Mm-hmm. And you have to start, and before you can correct. So solving a problem, it doesn't do any good to not attempt to solve it. It's attempting that, okay, that's not working, or we can do it better, and life will go on. And if you can make life better for yourself or someone else, you have succeeded in your travels of our short time on earth.
So I have one more question. Well, maybe it's not one more question. You really love the outdoors. How did you do that, being a teacher and having to be indoors all the time? How did you do that?
Well, part of the benefits of a teacher is, yeah, we do get some time off. We're not going to school and stuff. But I have surrounded myself, luckily, by some wonderful, very great people, and I've told them it's the people that you know that make life worth living, and they are part of that journey for me. They're people that I can rely on, I can call, I can ask for help, or I can ask for a good time. We can go on canoe trips, go on hikes. It's a pleasure to spend those few moments of life with those type of people. And there's a lot of MacGyvers in them. And You don't have
Well,
to.
what's a MacGyver?
A MacGyver is a person that can fix anything. Yeah, so that's, it's nice that when you run into trouble, and as was stated, our hike up the Gold Trail of the Yukon, it was challenging. It was challenging physically and mentally, and it was a little wet. But, we did it. And check it off our list. Will I do it again? No, I don't think so. There's some other things I can do without that. So that's what I mean. And I love the outdoors. As my wife would attest, I'm outside most of the time, and I have stuff to do. And some of that stuff might be a trip that she chooses not to go on, but I will go with others. And I just find the outdoors a very wonderful experience.
Thank you, Ed. I'll let you off the hook now.
Ooh.
Bev. Bev works 42 years as an educator, from elementary teacher to principal, to consulting with superintendents and principals to help solve difficult issues in the school system. Bev has been passionate about listening to the needs of students and teachers and bringing the best possible outcome to all that she has served. Your wisdom statement is, trust yourself. Know that deep inside you have the strength, courage, and conviction to speak for yourself and for others who may not be able to speak for themselves. Can you speak a little bit more about how you developed that trust and deep conviction to speak for yourself and others?
Well, I think over time, growing up, I was very quiet and shy, and I did a lot of listening to adults, and spent a lot of time actually as a child playing by myself outside. And so it took me a long time to really have the confidence and trust that I could speak up when I felt something or someone needed help. So that didn't just come automatically for me. And so like I said, it took time and building confidence, and then getting to the point where it's like, I really have to do something, I have to say something. And so I think that's, it was just over the years making sure that I address the needs of kids that I worked with, and then working with adults, the same thing. So it was a kind of a lifetime of a process of doing that, and having the opportunity to be in situations with my job that I had the opportunity to do that as my job took on more and more responsibilities with different things. That was my role, is to speak up for others and to advocate for others. And so again, it was a learning experience that I, just over the years, so.
Yeah, as you moved up in the ranks when you began consulting at the end too. Yeah. And I remember you talking about being a little intimidated because you were working with superintendents, and but you carried on in your amazing fashion of listening. Mm-hmm. And can you speak a little bit more about when you moved on to the consulting?
it was a wonderful experience. It was an opportunity to take what you learn throughout your life and then continue learning. It wasn't, you do this work because you know it all, because you certainly don't, and every situation is different. And so it was a great opportunity to learn from others in the educational field, from superintendents, from other principals, and to then go into a school district and be able to be objective and look at what they were doing well and what their challenges were, and to go from there. And then kind of wading through the process of building relationships, and that's what's so key to it. I mean, nobody wants you coming in from the outside and telling them what to do. Nobody appreciates that. We don't appreciate that as people, and certainly it's not appreciated when you walk into a group of people. So it was slowly building relationships, and then working on those strengths, coming from a point of strength, and then building so that you are addressing the challenges that they have. So it's a process, and it's sometimes you put your foot in your mouth, but it's if you've started to build a relationship and you're building that along, you can people will give you a little grace at times. So, and if you admit it, that's the other thing. I think many times we're afraid to admit, wow, I was out of line, or I didn't see it the way it really is. And so you go from there. And that's where you start to build trust with people.
Thank you. One more thing that we've talked about some. Can you tell us what ElderSpeak has meant to you through this 9-month journey?
Well, it's been a wonderful experience. I was told that when people are called and asked if they would like to go through this process and share their wisdom, it's like, I don't have any wisdom, I'm just an ordinary person. I don't, and so, but I think through the process, it's a wonderful experience, because I don't think any other time, I know I would never have taken the time to go back, looking at my childhood and throughout my life, to see how I became who I am. And I think we all, me especially, throughout my life, thought maybe I just wasn't good enough, or I didn't do enough, or I didn't whatever. And I think through this process and listening to the other people here and the guidance that we have received through these 3 wonderful women, I've come to the point where it's like, here I am. For the first time, when you're called in to be into ElderSpeak, then you begin to realize, my gosh, am I really getting to be elderly? Or what is this? But it gave me the opportunity to kind of look back on my life and different things that have happened, and raising 2 beautiful children, having grandchildren and great-grandchildren, that maybe I am good enough, and I am okay, just the way I am. So,
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you, Bev. How wonderful to know that you're good enough, right? So, Randy.
What?
Randy is fun, extremely fun, deeply caring, and generous. His heart is big, like huge, and includes all the people of the world, all races. Randy's father encouraged him to be a good citizen of the world, and he is. Randy's gift is bringing people together. Randy, your wisdom statement is, it's our humanity that brings us together. So my question is, how does our humanity bring us together? Can you tell us more?
I don't know, I just made that up. You know, it's I guess in our native world, in our Indian world that I come from, we believe that everything is imbued with a spark that the Creator gives us all. You know, you can call it your aura, you can call it, this divine spark. It's your shumach, your meriam, shumach meriam. It is the holy spark that we are all born with, whether you're, broccoli, bean sprout, or boy. We all have it in us. And a lot of people forget that they have this in them. But when you meet people, there's something good in all people. There's something good. It's like children. Children are all precious. They're all good. They start out good. And I think society, the world, everything can conspire in warping them to the point where they fail to recognize that goodness and that humanity. So I think as an example, I just moved back here to the Wenatchee area, going on 5 years. I was raised here as a child on Wenatchee Heights. And my family, they're original Wenatchee interior Salish people. We've seen it all. They've seen the hardness, they've seen the betrayal. But the one thing that I never grew up with is I never grew up in our household with hatred. That just wasn't allowed. And to experience it, it was even foreign for me to trying to internalize or to define in my mind what was going on, because if you don't grow up with it, you don't reflect it. So I've just tried to. I can hear my mother on one side, I can hear my dad on the other side, I can hear my grandmother behind me, my grandfather in front of me, my grandfather going, always remember, walk in the way of your people. Walk in the way of your people. And that means a lot. We were not haters. When Shuyapis, when Shama, the foreigners came to our land, we fed them. We got them through. They were as dumb as the dirt when they arrived. They would have starved to death if it wasn't for us. And so my grandmother, she never judged people. During the Depression, they fed people. They showed people how to eat. And we're kind of like Coyote. We could have just said, okay, just let them die if they're so puny and weak. But we didn't. We saw the necessity. We saw that holy spark that the Creator gave us all. And so my grandmother, she was definitely would counsel against being angry and hateful. And when I moved back to Wenatchee, it was interesting. People say you can never go back. You can't. That's a bunch of bull. You can if you want to. It's nothing that I outgrew. I always had in my heart, in my heart, in my brain, in my stories. I always had Wenatchee. There was always an unclosed chapter. I got the chance, and I gave myself the chance to return here. And you know what? I have met some of the greatest people since I've returned. They're like people within this great book, of life, Life in a Crystal Teepee by Randy Lewis. They have been missing parts in this, or they're incomplete parts in this. So, all coming back together. My friends out here, Chuck and Nancy, who helped in bringing me here, Selena Danko from Link Rail, Bill and Susan, the Lehman Evans family. They brought me here, and it was, what do I say, long overdue. I promised my mother I was going to come back. I was going to come back because my mother was a historian and a linguist, and she wanted me to help her, and so she would recruit me to come back. And more I started seeing Wenatchee as a very important part, that I had not closed those doors, and for a reason. So I came back, and what was the question? I'll ask Jan. No. The humanity in all of us. I have had the most wonderful opportunity to meet people in institutions, in government agencies here, and we've had a great relationship so far, and I don't see it changing. And I'm glad that, by returning, I got to leave Randy from Seattle in Seattle. The large cities can jade you in so many ways. I can look out here and I can see people that are my friends that have not yet become my friends. In Seattle, you tend to, or in any large city, I've lived in New York, Seattle, Chicago, they don't make eye contact, and for good reasons, and for their own self-preservation. I'm sure that's important. But Ed, smile. All it takes is a smile. A smile does so much to open doors. I know that in other countries and other cultures, you don't want to be walking around smiling at people, but that's not true here in this country. And as my mother would say, life is a risky business, but it's a process, not an event. So here we are. 4 people that otherwise would have never sat down together, probably. But we've discovered, I know Bev's classmates. They're some of my best friends. I know Ed's family, or at least I knew his dad. I sat in the office there at his dad's. His dad was a superintendent in OMAC. So, and I know Jan through her paintings. All I have to do is look at her paintings to understand her. And she was right. This is like, we live in a world of such beauty and color. But yet when you live in shades of gray like they do on the coast, when we were kids growing up, over on the coast. It became a term that meant everything over the mountains. Where are you going? We're going to the coast. Ooh, it's wet over there all the time. Yeah. Well, it's not far from the truth. I lived in shades of gray, 50 shades, no, like 500 shades of gray. But I owned my own gallery. I owned my shop, my gallery, my art gallery, frame shop. I was surrounded by beauty, by art. So the gray days, it might have been gray outside, but my gallery, it was always bright and sunny. I kind of jumped off, didn't I?
That's all right.
Oh, shit. Okay.
That's okay, Randy. So, I guess I would just say, is there anything you want to say to everyone here and those watching
Oh, hell yeah. I got
Hi.
a lot to say. I'm not done yet. No, we tend to undervalue people. I wouldn't say that we devalue them. But a lot of times, and I think as the world's become smaller and smaller, tighter and more congested, we forget that we're all in the same boat together. So it's best that we make the ride as enjoyable as possible. Leave our kids good examples. Be the role model for our children. If you don't like the way humanity is, you don't like the way your children are turning out, well, be the role model that you would like them to be. And I see that with these members of Elders Speak. They are good role models. And having met some of the past graduates from this group, they're good role models. Even the convicts. Hey. Celebrate each other's uniqueness, celebrate each other's differences. I mean, that's what we're about, is our differences. If I only celebrated those things that I had in common with people, or if we only celebrated those things that were like us, we'd be a bunch of boring ass people. But I think we're genuinely great people. And our culture, see, not too many people know about our native culture, our Wenatchee people. It's because we've been hurt. We've been hurt so deeply that we don't care to share. We don't want to share lest we be judged again. And that's not the truth. I mean, that's not a common thread through all of us. I mean, I grew up with my mother who wanted to teach, who wanted to educate people about who we are. And so I love taking people out and showing them what we're about. We're more than bows and arrows. We're a beautiful people, at least I think we are. And so I'm in the right place. I get to take people on bus tours. I get to take people out, tromping around believe it or not, Jan and I share something in common. We both had strokes over the past year. And so we're survivors, we're not victims. And that's how we should always treat life. We're survivors, not victims. All of us. Drop. Did that answer?
You now have an opportunity to ask questions. Morgan Fraser and Lissy Ott are going to take care of that part of this program. Lissy will be helping people here in the audience who have a question, so just raise your hand and she will bring a microphone to you.
Gotta put my hat on.
Morgan will be helping those who are online. Online, below the YouTube video, is a button that says either live chat or say something. If you press that and type in your question, she will get it and ask it to the elders. If the chat button isn't working for you, you can call 509-433-8109. And I said call, I meant text. Text in your question, please. So you can have your question be for one of the elders, for all of the elders.
Elders.
Just go ahead and ask your questions.
Hi, folks. Can we get one more round of applause for everybody up here? My name's Morgan Fraser. I've had the great privilege of being involved with the Ripple Foundation and ElderSpeak for many years now. And I got to help edit the ElderSpeak manual that Teresa was talking about earlier. I highly recommend it. It's very well edited. So please check that out. I am going to be monitoring the online the chat and also the phone. If you would like to text your question, You can text it to, as Teresa said, 509-433-8109. I have a couple people who have just said, Pam Jansen says hi from Saturna Island, British Columbia. I'm not sure if that's someone that someone knows there.
That's my sister.
All right.
Hi, Pam.
And we have 30 people watching from other parts of the world, in addition to all of you. So does anyone have a question to start out with that we can send Lissy your way? All right, then I get to ask mine first. My question is for Jan. Jan, the author Elizabeth Gilbert said that the first step to writing a novel is cleaning out the spice cupboard. And I'm wondering if there's anything that you have to do to get yourself in the mindset to write, to paint.
Yeah, I think a good idea is always to clean up around the studio. Then you find things, oh, I forgot about this picture or something, and I want to see how it influences my work. Or more specifically, oh, I want to add this to it. What else could I do to get ready? Line up my paints according to the spectrum in the studio. So this is not messy. Like say I'm looking for yellows. Well, you put them all together. Oh, yeah, I'm going to use this yellow again. Just getting a sense of your materials and where they are.
Does it become like is there a ritual to it that kind of helps you get started?
I think, yeah, if your studio's messy, you think, oh, it reflects you. And then when you organize all the colors I put on my table in order, it reflects a kind of order you want to have in your life.
Thank you. Thank you. Looks like we've got a question.
Well, is this on? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
This question is for Bev, and then maybe everybody else can chip in your thoughts on it. But partly, I wanted to hear the rest of that story that you told in the video of being around, ready to go in and meet this big brute of an angry guy. And I'm sure, what did you do, or what do any of you do when you encounter scary, negative people?
Well, the rest of the story on that is that when I put my hand out and told him who I was, he did shake my hand, and I said, you need to understand that there are children in the office and around, and there are parents, and you are scaring them. And I'm very happy to talk to you if you would like to talk to me, and we can just sit down and chat in my office. And he did. And like I said, I don't know whether that would work every time. It seemed I had several other instances when people would come in angry. Where I was a principal, we had people who, it was a high poverty area, and we had some people who felt they were not being treated well. So I always said, well, I would love to sit down and talk with you. I'd like to hear what you have to say. I may not be able to solve it right now or ever, but I'm willing to listen to you. So I think, you know, that was the approach I took. And as I was walking down the hallway down there, I was thinking, I mean, this was my first day on the kind of a new job, and it was like, I don't think I want to do this job anymore. So, you know, but I have to say my 7 years in that building were just wonderful years. So rewarding for me and rewarding for all the changes that we made, meeting students' needs and parents' needs in that building. So I don't know how other people.
I had a parent that came with a student. His student had been my student for a while. So she sat in front of her painting and started painting apple blossoms. And as soon as she got a paintbrush out, she, "Oh, you stupid thing, you." I said, "What are you saying to your painting?" And she said, "Well, it's not acting right." I said, "Well, you have to talk that painting as if it's a little child that you're going to encourage to be doing what you like your painting to look like." So she thought that was ridiculous. Then she painted a couple more things and she said, "Oh, you stupid painting." I said, "Well, we can't talk like this in the studio. There are lots of paintings here. They're all insulted." And the daughter's been my student for a while, so she just laughed. She thought it was so funny. "Oh, yeah, you can't talk bad here to your painting." But eventually we got her happier.
Did she stop saying bad things to the paintings?
Yeah. She stopped saying bad things. So we all felt better.
Thank you. We have a question from Mary Dennison. She said, "For each of you very special people, who has been your role model or hero throughout your life?"
I can quickly answer that. My wife.
Yeah.
That's good.
Well, we were married young. We struggled. We worked multiple jobs. Bev went back to school. We had 2 children to rear, one who's here in the audience and the other in LA. We did everything as a family, and it took the family to get through our beginning years. And, you know, you work hard after all those years, and this is the reward we get. We get to share that experience, and we get to share them with our family continuously.
Thank you. Does anyone else have an answer?
Well, now I have to say it's my husband.
Oh, I can respect that.
He is. He always supported me. There were times we just weren't quite sure whether we were going to make it through the month. And yet, he was always there, supporting me and being a great father and a great husband. So I think, again, both of us working together, I've said many times I thought he married the wrong person, because when he talked about being on the trail and it's raining 1 inch per hour, I don't want to be anywhere near any of that stuff. And I didn't go on many of those big adventures because, as I've said before, that's not my cup of tea, and I said I didn't go because it was good marriage preservation. So, but Ed is a good person, and he truly will always help others and be there for others, and he's always there for me and our children. So,
Yeah.
and we have a beautiful daughter in the audience here.
Sure do. What?
Do you have an answer to that?
Well, role models and heroes. I think my heroes, my older brother was my hero growing up. He and my cousins, they looked after me because I was always into trouble. And they kind of run interference for me. They kept me out of trouble. They kept me from, I would just get I'd get a SWAT. I wouldn't get crucified for the things that I should have been, I should not have been doing. They were my heroes. And my role models really were my great-grandparents. I was really fortunate, and I grew up in a household with all the generations. Great-grandparents, grandparents, mom and dad, brothers and sisters. There was a lot of us. And my great-grandparents, they talked about yesterday, the 1800s. They were born in the 1800s, in the 1870s. Great-great-uncle that was, Topia, my great-grandfather, great-great-uncle, great-great-grandfather, however you want to. It's not as easy within our culture. We don't just break it down into very lineal family relationships. It's the sacredness of that role. And they saw the time of change going from a horseback culture to the first automobiles, to the jet age, to the space age. They saw it and they made the transition. I mean, this takes superhuman strength to bridge those gaps that they did. And to be with them and talk with them and have them always being mindful of the fact that they had to carry on culture and tradition in a world that rejected it. They still persevered. My family, we may not be the most, what would you say, traditional family, culturally traditional family, but yet we have retained and held on to more of our culture and more of our traditions than most, and we value that. And by placing great value on it, we're honoring our mother, our father, our grandparents, our great-grandparents, the 600 generations of Nahamchen Pascosa people from here. So those were my role models.
Thank you.
How about you, Jan?
I can't really think of that answer. I thought that was a great answer.
She likes your answer.
Oh. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Is there anyone? Oh, we've got someone else. Here she comes.
This thing on?
Yes.
What is? My question would be directed to the educators here, but anybody else who want to chime in. I have a personal frustration that history is lost on the average American. And that leads to a lot of woes that we have in this country today and that we see happening in all over the world, really, particularly in Europe, where we get a lot of news. And if you believe that history repeats itself, that only leads to more concern on my part, because it doesn't take much. Well, I'm old enough to remember Benito Mussolini, Adolf Hitler, Joe Stalin. All those people were alive when I was alive. And it doesn't take but a few years that you mention those names and people don't know what you're talking about, or what role they had, and what they played in the history of the world. And with regard to history being lost on the average American, I can remember in school when nobody wanted to do history. Clear back in the 4th grade, we were learning about the Romans. 9th grade, we did Washington State history. Senior year, American history. Those are dreaded classes. And yet, well, I guess the phrase or question, how do you educators see that? Is there anything, I don't know whether you agree with me or not, but if you agree that history is lost and there is something to be gained by stimulating an interest in history, particularly among younger people, they can see an analogy as they grow older. What do you do about it?
I think the bane of our existence is that we forget from generation to generation, because life becomes a little more secure. We've sheltered our kids from having to experience that in a lot of cases. And like I said, it's the bane of our existence that we forget. I don't think within our family we've ever forgotten. And consequently, there's always been this need to share and to educate people around us, that those mistakes not happen again. But it's really hard in a day and age where everything is driven by the market economy and by technology. It's hard to hear your voice amongst the din of cash registers and the importance that we place upon things. And our kids, you know, I have no idea how you raise your children, whether you raise your children. But growing up in a multi-generational household, respect for the individual, your grandparents, your parents, the respect for the cultural integrity and the health of the culture was placed at a higher level than the individual. See, this country has grown so, how would you say it? They've grown so selfish that they place the individuated I above the collective health of the community, of the nation. Mm. And how do you reverse that? I don't know, I'm not a magician. All I can say is you have to instill values, you have to instill teachings in your children. And you have to be the change. You can't expect them. It's kind of like when you're working with kids. We expect a lot of things from our kids. We expect them, number one, we expect them to be committed to their education, committed to a job. We expect something that doesn't even exist in their vocabulary, a word called commitment. how do they display commitment when they've only seen it parceled out to them growing up, or no commitment? So you be the change. I hope that that touches on some of what you were asking, Chuck. I'm not sure. History is important. It is important. And I guess we have fallen. We have failed in so many ways.
I hear what you're saying, Randy, but my observation has been that your culture is different than the white culture, and that you do place a value on history, and you've demonstrated that here. I guess I'm speaking of the white culture.
Well, I don't think it's a whole lot different. There's so much to teach about history. And like you say, when you're going through an educational system, it's how much, as the student, do you really keep inside you and remember, when it's really not at that point in time for some kids that interesting or that significant because they don't see it. Many times talking to kids about their future, they don't see that when you're an 8th grader or even a 10th grader, that pretty soon you're going to be an adult because of their stage of life. I think the one thing that I think we really, as parents and communities, need to teach kids is the fact that each person has value and that each person is unique and special. I think those are the kinds of things that, when it comes down to making judgments on, an acceptance, it doesn't matter what your religion is, what your race is, your gender, you respect each person. I think when we've had times when there's some of the hatred that you see is when we don't value other people. We don't see the humanity in them. And so it's easy to write them off. When you look at different times when people were denigrated to the point that they were nothing but vermin, when you took the humanity out of each person is when you leave yourselves open for times that you see a Mussolini, a Hitler,
Trump,
a Putin, whoever you want to say. But I think, history, I love history, but I didn't necessarily love it in high school. Even though but there is so much to learn. If you look back, even from the beginning of our country, historically, look at all there is to learn. And it's not just dates and places, it's broad concepts. And then you look at the world and all the different histories there. So I don't know whether that answers your question, but.
Thank you. All right, so this is our last question. We need to start wrapping things up. Did you have one? Oh, Lissy's running up to the, just one second. Oh, sorry. There was someone over here that I couldn't see. I'm so glad Lissy could. Okay, so we'll take this question, and if we have time, then we'll take your question, okay?
Kind of a question to all four of you. You've expressed, philosophy of life, something that has evolved over time. When did you start thinking about that? How did you evolve the thoughts that you've expressed with us today, the knowledge that I presume developed over time. So, yeah, when did you start thinking the thoughts that brought you to this? How did it evolve and bring you to the point where you have this understanding, the knowledge that you can pass on to us today?
Well, don't all look at each other.
I'll go, Randy.
Go ahead, Ed.
9 months ago. Seriously, you know, like I don't think I'm too different. We get in our routine in our world and we float through it. And, you know, I'll hand out, you know, a banana to a homeless person, or I'll help an elderly couple that are so frustrated at Fred Meyer trying to pump gas. I'll run their card for them. I don't pocket any money out of that. But you know, the little things, there's just part of me, who I am. This morning, I was helping a neighbor weed spray a field that he was trying to get done before he went into surgery next week. You know, that's Ed Baugh. And whether it's right or wrong, that's who I am. And I get rewarded from that. Until that time, I never really thought about, well, maybe this Ed Baugh is okay. Maybe mentoring a student through the YMCA program for 5 years, he's about ready to graduate, I hope. Maybe that's a good thing for Ed Baugh to have done and to do. But to think about doing it as something special, I never thought of that. And these ladies put it together to help me understand who I am. I really, truly mean that.
Yeah.
That's good.
Okay.
Since
go ahead,
you're not jumping in, I've been waiting for you to jump in. I think growing up, I had a really wonderful grandfather, Jerome Miller, and his father, Sam Miller, from here in Wenatchee. My granddad, Jerome, was an expert witness when it came to our culture. He retained it, and he liked sharing it with his grandchildren. When I moved to Seattle, I guess we spent so much time arguing when I was a kid. He missed that because he came over to Seattle and he would spend months with me. And we would have dinner, and while I was cleaning up, he would go and he would lay down on the couch and he'd say, you know, grab your pencil and paper. He said, I want to talk to you about a few things. So he would sit there and he would start kind of where one of our conversations ended off. He would start and he would talk about, he would connect our, our creation stories, coyote stories, with something that happened in his life later on, maybe when he was a teenager or as a young adult. And then he would bring it forward to where we are now. So it was the ghost of Christmas past, present, and future, kind of the Christmas Carol of Dickens. Then one day I realized I'm the person on that couch. And the younger people are asking me the same questions. I'm going, aha. Here is me. Here I am, being my granddad. That's when you realize it, when you realize that you're carrying on a tradition of being a spokesman for a segment of an age group.
Yeah. Thank you. I think we're probably right about time.
Morgan, can we take one more? I've got one more question here.
Okay. This is our last question.
Again?
Again.
Thank you. It's a brief one. What gives you hope?
Who says we got hope?
My glass is always half full. Every minute, I have hope. And if something doesn't work, I know it doesn't work, and so I can make a change to make it work.
I think when you see young people, taking on the roles at an early age and speaking articulately and voicing themselves, you realize there's a lot of hope. Hope is seeing a child who's eager to learn, a child who loves artwork, a child who loves animals. That gives you hope. It gives you hope in humanity, gives you hope for the future, and that they're concerned enough to voice it. And you see a little bit of your own life, maybe that same youthful spark you once possessed, being carried forward. There's a lot to be hopeful for. I think wisdom is knowing that understanding that you don't know everything and that you still have things to learn. And courage is owning that you don't. And that there is that what we voice here will not be the last time it's voiced. Then that maybe these messages, our feelings, this video will go on, and maybe one little part of it will be taken and understood. Come on, Bev.
Well, I agree. I have a lot of hope when I look at young people and at how many of them are speaking out at a very young age. And so I feel a lot of hope because we've got kids who want to save the planet. We have kids that have a lot of, see humanity in the world around them. And I feel a lot of hope. There's times that I get kind of discouraged, and then all I have to do is think about those things that young people have done, what they're doing, listen to some of the speeches that I hear young kids making, and I think sometimes we've sold them short.
Exactly. I think one of the things that we have to, in that feeling and that question, what gives you hope? Well, a lot of things give me hope, but the greater question is, are there leaders, are there adults who will hear that? We tell our kids, if you don't speak, no one will listen. Well, we're on that threshold right now. When are people going to listen? Kids are very smart. They're very intuitive. But we got to give them credit for it too.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And can I just say that listening to all of you gives me a lot of hope. So thank you.
Thank you, Morgan and Lissy. And now I'd like to invite Steve. Would you come up and close for us?
I'm Steve Stroud. I'm the executive director of the Ripple Foundation. And it's better if you can hear me this way, right? Journey to wisdom. That's what we've experienced today. Sometimes it starts 9 months ago. What you're seeing today is a tip of the iceberg of the work, the dedication, and the heart, the caring, and the love that has gone into this program. Not only do Deb, Teresa, and Robin work for 9 months to deliver this, somehow Deb and Teresa found the time to write a manual on how to do this. Fascinating. You can support ElderSpeak, you can support the Ripple Foundation, and you can share in the process by buying this by donation. Suggested price $15 doesn't mean you couldn't donate more, right? Mm-hmm. Journey to wisdom. How do you get there? You would think it's a journey if you have to get from one place to another. And what we've seen today is that journey, right? We've seen the thoughtful integration of life's experience. That's what delivers wisdom, or certainly can, right? I have a quote, a favorite quote, and it goes like this. It goes, "What a caterpillar sees as the end, the world sees as a butterfly." And what we've experienced, or what I've experienced from this, is that transformation that's happened in this setting. The going from I didn't know I had wisdom to I have value and I have wisdom, to bringing forth that butterfly, so to speak, within each one of us. And what I wonder is how we can all do that. Certainly we can become elders and we can spend 9 months in a very deep and heartfelt process. But I made a few notes, and some of the things that I picked up as ways that might allow us to transform ourselves from a caterpillar to a butterfly: with compassion, with determination, with gratitude, by helping others, by infusing ourselves into our creative process, whether that's as art, whether that's as a teacher, whether that's as a leader of our culture. And when you do that, here's my new favorite quote: "Here is me." You bring yourself to the world. Here is me. And you become medicine, a medicine man or a medicine woman. But you have to wake up. Because without you, the picture is incomplete. So keep a journal and celebrate. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us today. Great big hand for these people. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. TheRippleFoundation.org. ElderSpeak at your local bookstore, out front. Thank you.
Yeah. Randy wants to say something.
Just one thing. This has been so wonderful to be the youngest person in a group.
There will be refreshments, still refreshments out front, and the opportunity to chat with the elders.